Hey everyone, just want to stop by real quick for this podcast starts and say you should like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on all my social medias at John D. Clouser, literally the same name as the name that you subscribe to on this YouTube channel. So enjoy this clip, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
My son just thumb punched that by himself with his thumb. It's a Mountain Dew, by the way, TikTok. Go ahead and shotgun that for them. I wish I'd have got that on video. He thumb punched that, bro. I love it. That's my man right there, bro. Much love, much respect. Yes.
Welcome to the John Show with your host, John Doogie Clouser.
All right. I feel like this whole beginning of this episode has been an absolute shit show. It's really not. It's just funny how I'm like, I hope to God I'm in focus because when I was doing, you're probably, if you watch this, I don't know who actually watches it versus just listen to it, but who really fucking listens to it? Anyway, if you see the thumbnail or like the plug, I call it a plug. When I'm in my editing, it's like in my folders, it's called the plug. And like, yeah, the plug video, then you have like the main show audio. That's basically how it works, and then the plug audio. And so I just looked at it, and I'm like, before I did this one, I'm like, well, I could reshoot it all, but I'm also like, does it matter? Like, I mean, like, it was slightly out of focus, and I'm like, okay, I get what I did wrong because I'm doing a whole new thing because I'm using a new lens, and the old lens, it's such a shallow lens, so that there's so much forgiveness from the 2 points of like how far it goes in and out of focus that you didn't really notice. So like if something was a little soft, doesn't really notice. It's like, okay, you can somewhat, like, I guess if you went to film school or like someone who's like a big film person, someone who likes cinema, that they would be able to, okay, that seems like a little out of focus. But for the most part, you really wouldn't tell. But with this one, there's so much depth with the lens and so much glass that you can easily fuck the whole thing up. And it's really cool. Like, the thing is, like, I've probably told this all the time, but you do is, if it's one of these, if you have a lens that has like a switch where you can do manual and autofocus, put it in autofocus and of whatever you're trying to shoot, and then once it focuses, because what it's going to do, it's going to get what's the word, infinite focus. So it's going to try to, and then what you normally would do that is you would zoom all the way in on something as far away and get that focus. And when you come back out, everything's going to be in focus, just because you found point A, point 1, all the way to point B, 2. And now you know the whole focal length of the whole lens. And so everything's going to be in focus no matter where you adjust it at. So it's just one of the fun things of film. What I should start doing, I should get prime lenses, and it just eliminate the whole thing at all. But the thing with prime lenses that you can't do that. It's all just manual focus for the most part on those kind of lenses. And so it's me just having to sit here and find the center. Because like I'm all by myself. I don't have anyone else. So like normally what I'd do is I'd have someone sit down, then I'd find the focus myself. I'd find the focus. And then too, I could actually probably just measure it. I'll just like I'll measure where the microphone is to the lens. And I could do that too. So yeah, anyway guys, we're here. This is what's up. This is what we're doing. This is the beginning of the podcast. This is episode 125. Pretty solid. We hit like isn't this like an anniversary? Wouldn't this be an anniversary? Is this the bicentennial? No, the bicentennial is the 100. No, bicentennial is the 120th, right? Was I right? Oh, dude, was it this week? At my job, somehow, every once in a while, like, not humble brag here, I always do something that like makes me seem a little bit smarter than what I really am. Like oh, he's a kind of an asshole, but he's kind of intelligent. so you know how each state has like a nickname, like the Garden State is New Jersey, Missouri's the Show Me State, that kind of thing. Well, the Granite State, which I was like, so we have these meetings at my job, and then at my job, he always does these like trivia things. So like sometimes it's animals, sometimes it's states. There's a bunch of different things, and was it the 120th anniversary name? What is it? I can't. I've never ever seen that one. Quasquicentennial. That's what I'm going to call the podcast. Let's give you the name of the podcast. It's like, anyway, so this week we did states, and he's like, a couple people were like, what's the Granite State? And they were saying different things, and I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like, okay. So what they said, somebody said like Arizona. I'm like, okay. So then if it's not Arizona, then most likely it's not going to be any of the states around it. I'm like, okay. And then someone else said like California, and I'm like, no, that's like, I'm like, this is, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, so what's that? I'm like, and everything's left. I'm like, maybe it's probably most likely, because it's such an absurd thing. I'm like, most likely Granite. Maybe it's one of the original 13 colonies, because I'm like, okay, maybe this is like, because maybe Granite was like a style of what they used to build stuff. And I was like, okay, what could it be? And so then I was like New Hampshire. And I was right. It was crazy. I was like, because I just basically just used contact clues. I'm like, okay, well, they were at this region. I'm like, okay, most likely it's not going to be that then. I'm like, it can't be. Like, I'm not going to waste my pick by saying, if someone said Arizona, then if I said, like, New Mexico, it's like, I'm not going to waste it by saying something right next to it. I'm like, well, let's go someplace on a completely different part of the United States, because it was basically broke up. There's 4 regions of the United States of how you can look at it. Because someone else said, like, Minnesota. Someone said Minnesota. Someone said California, someone else said Arizona, and I was like, well, fuck, let's just go to the other spot. And I'm like, it could either be Rhode Island. I was like, it's either Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and I was like, maybe like, I'm like, it's not Boston, because I think Boston is the Beantown. No, Beantown's Boston, isn't it? But Massachusetts is. I like, it can't. I don't think it's Massachusetts. What? I don't even know what Massachusetts' nickname is. Let's look up that one. Massachusetts nickname. Oh, the Bay State. Okay, that makes sense because of all like the bays, because of all like, that's where, England and all that bullshit, the Tea Party and all, like that's where the tea thing happened. All that good stuff. Was it the tea part? The Boston Tea Party? Is that what it is? The Boston Tea Party? See, this is what happens with me. Like, I'll think of one thing on like the Bay State. I'm like, okay, from the Bay State, what can go from that? And I'm like, the Boston Tea Party, Boston Tea Party. Okay, the Boston Tea Party, December 16th, 1773. That's like, holy shit. That's like right. That's like, it's not that's a couple years before the United States got its independence, because the United States got its independence in 1776 was when the United States got its independence. The Boston Tea Party was an American political and mercantile protests by the Sons of Liberty in Boston, Massachusetts on, December 16, 1773. See, this is the thing though. Like this, like what I tell people, I'm like, all you got to do is just read a little bit every day. That right there can count as your reading. But like then when you read that, like why would you not want to read something else that goes along with it? And then you read that, then you're going to read a little bit more. Then like by the time you realize that you've read like 1,000 words, boom. You don't realize how easy, especially how quick you can, like, how words add up. And so, I don't know if that made any goddamn sense what I just said there, but you don't know how words add up. what the fuck did I just say? But yeah. So okay. Fun facts. 7 fun facts about the Boston Tea Party, bitches. The colonials weren't protesting for higher tax. The tax ships were American, and tea wasn't the. Oh, I need to read. Okay, I had to click because it's like these sentences aren't full sentences. I'm like, what the? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. The colonialists weren't protesting in higher taxes early. The beginning. Oh, god damn it! I fucking hate those ad things that comes up. Okay, that's one. What is it? Early, the Boston surprised about the Boston Party surprisingly wasn't protesting against new tax hikes on the tea, although tax spoke colonists' anger. The tax spike angered the colonists. What's the second one? What's another cool fact? Is this even interesting, guys? The attack on the ships were American, and the tea wasn't the king's. Oh. The popular note of the Boston Tea Party is the angry colonists stuck it to King George by boarding British ships and dumping crates loaded of King's tea into the Boston harbor, but the story is not true on 2 accounts. First, the ships that were boarded by the Sons of Liberty, the Beaver, the Dartmouth, and the Eleanor were built and owned by Americans. 2 of these ships were primarily whaling vessels. After developer value ships of the sperm whale oil and brain matter to London in 1977, the ships were loaded with tea en route to American colonies. Although not British, some of the ship's American owners were indeed Troy. What the hell? What's this word? Sympathizers. Oh, sympathizers. Sympathizers. See, there's sometimes, and I'm not going to lie to you because I'm a fucking foreigner, that I'll see a word. I'm like, I have never fucking seen those words before. I'm like, I have no idea. So, like, I'm not even going to try to fucking pretend to know this. I'm just going to fucking just like, let me think. And that's the great thing about I have $1,000 computer in my hand. Why not let the computer tell me what it says sometimes? Hell, aren't they trying to get us connected to this more? Like, hell, if anything, fuck yeah. The tea was Chinese, not Indian, and a lot of it was green. Okay. You know what I love? I love how like I was somewhat interested in the Boston Tea Party, but then I was like, no, I'm not. But anyway, being about a foreigner, that's a funny little like. I guess it's a good segue into one of the funny things this week. So, when I was one of the earliest memories I have, it's gonna be weird, was when I was still living in San Pedro Sula, and we had basically like what is like a swamp cooler. If you don't know what a swamp cooler is, it's like you have like a tub of water on the bottom, and cold like air blows on it and it gets cold, and that's how you basically keep a refrigerator cold. This big refrigerator, they call them swamp coolers. And sorry, I'm so sorry about that. And so what it is like there's water underneath the fridge. It's like water underneath the fridge. Anyway, so the other day, someone at my job was like, because they were just saying it in like a metaphorical thing, like, it's water to the bridge, which I didn't know that was the term. I didn't know that was the saying. I swear to God. And this is the weird foreign things that happens to me every once in a while. I thought it was water under the fridge, just because I swamp coolers. When you have swamp coolers, they have water in them. That's how you cool them. I'm like, that makes more sense. If you really think about it, oh, it's water on the bridge. That makes no sense to anything. Like, it's water on the bridge, okay? And you walk over the bridge, but it's just water on the bridge. It's underneath. You don't worry about it. I don't understand like how that makes any correlation to anything. Water under the fridge makes way more sense, but in terms, that doesn't make any sense to what I'm saying. Like, like, hey, yeah, like, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It's just water on the fridge. It's like, it's just water in the fridge. Like, it's just water in the fridge. I mean, it's just like, just chill out. It's just chilling there. So like, there's no need for either of us to worry about it. Is that what it is? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. History. We're going to do another history thing. History of the saying water under the bridge. The phrase originated around the early 1900s. It probably referred to the fact that water, a river, flew constantly towards the sea and is not still. That the water has already flowed under the bridge and will not return. Oh, okay. So it's like a thought and a thing, and it just like, oh, okay. That makes sense then. Kind of a long way to think about that. And I'm really surprised that that's out of all the stuff in the world, that like sayings, that's one of the ones that's really we've held on to since the 1900s. Damn, early as over a fucking 100 years ago, dog. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Jelly Bean. So anyway, what was some things I wanted to talk about this week that I had written down on my thing? That was one of them, right? I don't know. How are you guys doing? Are you guys doing good? Are you guys doing well? The world. How's the world doing? COVID. Some people I've known got COVID. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I think like, have I gotten COVID again? I mean, there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell I have. There's no way. And I'm just like, interesting. But it's like, it's weird. It's a good time. It's a good time. But yeah, like, yeah, like what let's look at that. Things are going on in the world. What's going on? I should probably say the one thing. Last week I was so baked last week on this podcast, guys, that it's James Caan, not James Can. All right, anyone who's listening is like, John, you said his name wrong. I'm like, I know I did. I realized that. I realized. You should still see Queen Bee. Still a good movie. Still a damn good movie. Damn good movie. Yeah, I got a new laptop. I got a Sprinter laptop for my writing. I submitted a story. Have a story I have to submit by, I think, by the 15th. So that's Friday. It's supposed to be a 500 page. It's supposed to be like 500 words. I have like 400 words done, and it has no delivery to it. There's nothing. It's always funny because it's like, oh, I'm like, I did this one, and it's a free entry, so I'm not even like really tripping about if I don't do that good. But the thing is, like, I have to enter something into it. Enter something. This is all about like putting in the work, and I'm just like, oh, but this is how it always is at this time. There's always this moment right now. As long as I have stuff down, I'm going to be able to take that, and then I'm going to be able to mold something. And I have an idea of where I'm going with this. It's just like, I have to, there's this moment where like I'm hitting, and then like, it's just like click, and it just, I'm like, oh, boom. That's what this character wants. That's where we're going. That's how we're going to get there. And I just fucking get to it, do it. And doesn't mean the story's always good, because like the story I submitted on Monday, it's called John's Waterproof Boots. I guess I can talk about it now because the story's fucking done. So it was weird. It was a weird thing. So it was basically like a Forrest Gump meets like the curious life of like Andrew Whitty, or the quiet life of Andrew Mitty. Where it's supposed to be like this guy, he's supposed to be this average dude, but like he has all these weird things that got him to the States. So you got this guy named John, right? And it's based off of this poem that was made in 1924 called Happiness. And the first line was like, John had these waterproof boots. The last line was like, and that said John is that. And that's how the story ends, and because that's how the poem ends. And so that's how my story had to end, was with those two prompts. And so I wrote the story about this guy named John, and he is basically this artless guy. He like his greatest like thing that he has is these pair of running shoes, and he likes them so much is because like back in 2000, like was it 2000 and what did I say 2004, he tied them. He double knotted them and he slipped his foot in there ever since, and he's never had to retie them. That's why he likes them so much. And then he talks about how he like fell in love with this girl that he used to work with, but she ended up being a lesbian, and like he ends up like he does this whole math equation saying like how like she should like be in love with him, but she still declines it. So anyway, so that's like the beginning of it. Then that's the intro paragraph, and then you go and you find out that like this John guy, he grew up on the eastern side of Honduras. He came all the way from Honduras all the way up to the United States, in North Carolina, and how he got there was with a coyote. And then it goes from like that, then it goes back to like talking about how he was in love with this girl. He liked this girl that he worked with, and then like their whole like story of like their love affair, then how that thing ends up like fucking up, and it was the same day, like the day that he like was like, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? Basically, she rejects him, but it's because he was because she's a lesbian. But the funny thing is, I wrote but he gets a hand job in her car on a date, so it's not really a total wash. And then from there, he was like going and getting a 6-pack of beer. He's walking up by this bridge. Oh, kind of funny thing that we're talking about a bridge. We talked about a bridge earlier. And he went across the bridge, and there's this guy. He was going to jump off the bridge. And it's supposed to be a whole metaphor of like, I hope you never feel this way. Because he talks to him, hey, you want this beer? The guy's like, my name's Paul. Like, they have this whole interaction with each other. And when he's coming down, the guy, Paul, the guy who's going to jump off the bridge, tells John, it's like, I hope you never feel like this. And it's supposed to be a metaphor of, you're going to go through all these, like, these things are going to happen in your life, these negative things, but you just keep on pushing. And you do things to make yourself better, even though they're not, sometimes nothing comes from it. Like in the story, John, he liked this girl, they went on a couple dates to this one place that specializes in hot dogs, another place that, when it was translated, it was like a Mexican restaurant. When it was translated, it was like crazy chicken hat ranch. Like, no, was it hat ranch chicken ranch? Something like that. It was something weird. I just basically just put 4 words together that was supposed to be stupid. And so, but it was, he did it to grow. And then he talked to this guy, like even like him walking up to the guy on the bridge. He's like, I'm doing this to try to be better than myself. Like, because like the world's given me so much. So like I need to give back to this moment. And then at the very end, he goes and he's in Rhode Island. And because like when he was in El Paso, when he was 15, because that's when a coyote took him from the Chihuahua desert to the border of Texas. And when he was in El Paso, there was a gas station. And in the gas station, there was a postcard. And the postcard had like a house, and it had a lake, and there were some words, and the words said Rhode Island. And so John always had this idea of like, he always wants to find that place. Because there was this moment in the story where you talk about like, if there was another story, he would talk about how he would take the late night buses to Ocean Bay. And in Ocean Bay, he would watch the ocean, he'd watch like the ocean come in and out, listen to the whales in the distance, and realize this isn't the only place of peace he's ever going to have. He's going to be better than this place. And because his whole goal was to get to America. That was the goal. And then when he got there, and then, have this house. And at the very end of the story, he's walking home because he takes his route all the way to this dock where they shoot off fireworks on the 4th of July. And on the way back home, he sees a house and the lights were on. And he doesn't know the man, and he's like looking in this window because he's stopping. He's basically he's on the sidewalk, but out in the front yard. And there's this big window, and you see this older gentleman with his shirt tucked in, kind of heavy set man, and he's talking. He's telling us like, and you could see like, you know, wives, kids, aunties, uncles, you know, like the whole gamut of family. And you know, he has this moment of like, oh, like, and you have this like epiphany because like, it's all been told to you by this like basically like, this voiceover, this word of God. You know how like when a thing happens, like, you know, in Strangers, the movie, like Stranger Than Fiction, I believe that, yeah, with Will Ferrell, and like, you know, he'll do something and like there's a voiceover of like, you know, he's brushing his teeth because it's like a writer writing this guy's character's life, and like you have this moment where like there's this old guy who's supposed to be a metaphor of like what John's gonna be, and then you have John, this character, and they're looking at each other, and the guy comes over to the window, gives him the middle finger, close the curtains, and then that's how the story ends. It just kind of ends in a funny little witty little thing. In retrospect, like, I don't know, I think it's a pile of shit story, but we'll see. It's a story I would never write, but because it's a prompt of a contest, I'm like, well, fuck, it's different. So we should try it, and you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, it's a fun time. It's interesting because it's like there's this moment of like I remember writing and being in the heat of writing that story and absolutely hating every moment of it because I'm like, I don't know where this story is going, and now that like this is the first week without it for over a month, like a month and a half. And because I finished the other story, because I have at the end of this month, I have to submit a story for another contest, and that story's been done for over 2.5 months because I started that a long time ago because I gave myself like 2 months or 1 month to write a story, and then like last month was to write this story for the beginning of this month, and then for the ending of this month is the story that my first story that I started. I know, crazy life, right? And that one's pretty much, that story's done. I just have to submit it. Actually, I should probably just go ahead and submit it if you want the fucking truth. But I want to look over it again. I got my new laptop, and so I have to download a writing software system, and then from there I can go to it and start writing and like start doing the whole thing again. It's gonna be a real fun time. It's a real good time because it's like I bought a 2013 like refurbished MacBook Air because I was like, oh, this would be easy. This would be super simple. Like, well, it doesn't have pages on it, so I have to now go online when I get done with this podcast. So hopefully, I can find like a link that I can just download an old version of it. And I think I found one earlier today, but I don't know. And I was at work and I couldn't really do that. But I'm like, I really wanted to get that done. Or I'm like, I almost want to be like, fuck this, and just pay the $100 and just buy Word and just be done and download it. Or because it's like the other thing is like I can just rent it for like $10 a month, and I almost feel like I should just rent it for $10 a month, and it'd probably be easier. But I'm just like, why would I just not want to have Word on my computer anyway? And then there's always like the other thing I could always just, you know, but I'm not going to do that because I just rather just fucking pay for it. I'd rather pay for it, get it done, have it, and just be over. Just be over. But it's just, it's funny. It's like everything has to be a little bit harder because, you know, that's the story of a life of someone writing. You know what? Probably most likely, if I was a normal person who didn't do all this stuff, I wouldn't find all those little things. I'd just be like, well, it's whatever. I got to do this now. But anyway, if I wasn't writing, I wouldn't have this extra computer. Anyway, I have like, 40 seconds left. If you guys gotten this far, thank you so much for watching. Please be safe, have fun, do something fun, do something that's different because it's going to make you better. Like me, writing that story. I learned things that are going to now help me write stories that I would normally write. Pretty much. Anyway. Be safe. Be kind. I love y'all.